learning songs. There's a technique that I always teach called clearing. And so today we're not using guitars or anything like that. And if you're at work or maybe you're busy doing something else, you can always come back to this and watch this later. And it's just something to think about a little bit. What I find a lot in my lessons, and again, I've been teaching, I'm 50 now, I've been teaching since I was 17, is it's always about perception. Like when you try to help people, you think about perception and how people think about things and see it's just like education. I was a Montessori instructor for many years as well. And you try and get people to understand the easiest way to get from point A to point B. Hey, Jack. And so today what I thought I would do is kind of explain to you a process that I've always used to efficiently learn songs and retain that information in my head. Now, again, it's going to be me talking, so it's not playing or anything, but hopefully this can help you a little bit. Hey, Raj. Hey, Father Dave. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Anthony. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this from two different perspectives. The first one I want you to think about, and again, I'm just going to use some analogies here too. Hey, Tally. Hey, Brian. Is that when you're trying to, let's say you've been introduced to a song that you're going to learn. Maybe it's a cover song. Maybe it's an original song that some friend of yours wrote or something like that. Hey, Greg. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Crispy Rambo. Jerry, Paul, Lil Abner, John, James. So awesome that everybody's here. Hey, thank you, Easy E. Thank you so much. Hey, Marshall. Hey, Robert. Okay, so again, what we're doing today is we're going to be talking about how to think about songs, how to memorize songs, hopefully more efficiently, and how to retain that information, if you will. And I'm going to be using some analogies like I normally use to try and make things a little bit easier for you. So, hey, everybody. Hey, Michael. Hey, Fran. Hey, Donald. Hey, Eugene. So again, no guitar playing today, and I want to get right on. I know everybody's saying hi, and I'm saying hi to everybody, but I don't want to waste too much of your time. So here's what I want you to think about. If you had a song that you need to learn, okay, and you don't know anything about the song, so we haven't started figuring out the key. We're not anywhere near that right now. We just have this song that we have to learn. Maybe it's a song we're going in the studio to record, or maybe it's a song we're learning with a band, or again, it's a song that maybe your band came up with and they've presented it to you, and now you need to learn it. And you certainly come across this a lot when you play in bands, whether it's a cover band or whatever it might be. And certainly when you get hired to do work, like if you get hired to go on tour and you've got 25 songs or 20 songs that you have to learn, and you have 2 weeks to learn them, right? So a lot of times you don't have a lot of time to get all this together. You just have to get it together and go. So this says October 12th. Is it just going to load until? I'm not sure what that is, but anyway. So today is just a Monday motivation thing. That's all it is. And we're talking about songs. So think about it this way. When you first get that song, the first thing you do before you start digging in my opinion, is that you just listen to the song. And I've always tried to use the analogy when I'm teaching it, like if the song was the earth, right? And you're out in outer space and there's no gravitational pull. You're just experiencing the song in a very generic and, a visual or aural, in this case, perspective. So you're not getting into key and all that stuff. You're just listening to the song. Maybe you start kind of identifying little elements of maybe, repetition in a chorus or something like that, or, some of the words to the chorus, but you're not deep yet. You're just listening. Okay. And then what happens is as you get a little bit closer to it, that gravitational pull starts pulling you in. And what happens then is the song starts coming into perspective, into shape. And you start realizing, again, we're not ear training right now, that sort of thing. We'll certainly talk about that stuff sometime. But we're just now recognizing that there's some elements that we are aware of. There's a groove, there's a tempo, there's a time signature, and there's certainly elements of repetition that are happening. And this way, what we're doing is we're trying to just get to know the song, okay? It's like dating. We're just getting to know the song. We're not getting married, none of those things. We're just trying to get comfortable with what's happening. So that's where this whole thing starts before we get to what I'm going to talk about, which is clearing. Okay, we just start trying to become aware of things. And then what we do is we move in even deeper and we start really making a connection to the elements. Okay, and there's always this thing that I call red flags. Now, red flags are like when you're listening to the song, maybe you're driving in your car and you're listening to the song and you start recognizing that this section here moves to this section here. Right? And then to this section and so on. And you're making this connection. And again, you can define them as verse or chorus or whatever, and that's fine. But you're making this connection to these pieces. And as you're driving and you're listening to this song, maybe you've listened to this song now 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 times. Okay? And you're becoming aware of how each piece is kind of connecting to each next piece. Red flags for me are the parts where you're not You go, oh, crap, I didn't realize that was there. I keep forgetting that that's there, okay? That's a red flag thing. You just pin that little part with a red flag and go, okay, so I know that that's going to be an issue. Now, again, we're not talking technique or anything. We're not there yet. We're just orally listening to the song at this point. So once we get to that point where we've kind of worked out the overall general idea of the song, now what we're going to do is we're going to jump in. Hey, Peter. Hey, Joseph. Hey, AD. Hey, Aaron. And now we're going to dive in and we're going to start trying to look at the song on a deeper level. And the first thing I always tell people is when I mean go deep with the song, what we're going to do is we're going to dig underground. We're going to go underneath those lyrics. We're going to use the lyrics the same way we would use a drum fill or a bass line or a particular riff or something, where it helps us to line up the parts. I'm completely serious when I say this to people. For many years of my life, lyrics meant nothing to me. Like I never paid attention to lyrics. I was a guitar player, and so it didn't matter what they were singing about. It didn't matter if I could understand the lyrics. It's only been in the last few years that I've really learned to appreciate lyrics, which is probably not good on my end, but that's the way it was for me. So I could go deep, I could go underneath the song, and I could use those lyrics to help me line up the sections of the songs or the song that I'm trying to learn. I could use it as a tool, but I wasn't, because think of it this way. This happens to me all the time. I'm driving in the car and I'm listening to the song and I'm trying to get in tune with the tune. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking about what I want for lunch. And then you come back and go, oh crap, I missed part of the song, right? Or you start listening to the lyrics maybe, and then, or whatever it might be, and you're distracted from that deepness of going in and really thinking about the organization of what you're trying to do. So once we've got that happening, now the question comes up, well, how do we learn the song? Now we've got an idea of this. Okay, well, the beauty of that is that we know where elements of repetition are happening. So it's not like, let's say it's a 4-minute song. It's not like you have 4 minutes of learning to do. If you can recognize the repetition elements, once you learn that element, we'll get to technique in a bit here, but once you learn that element, you already are aware that it's going to go here and here and here, but there's this and this and this and this red flag thing that you're not really sure about. And if you have any element of ear training, maybe you're already kind of figuring out what you think the chords are or whether they're major or minor, that sort of thing. And again, we'll get into an ear training discussion sometime in the future, but this way, we're kind of already making this more efficient because we're not going in blindly. We're not just going in and trying to learn a song we don't know or we've never really become intimate with. We're actually learning something that we really have listened to 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or however many times. We've gone in there and we've listened and we know what we want to do. Okay. So as we start learning some of these pieces, we realize that those pieces are getting repeated over and over. Now, I always tell people when you first start learning a song, try and disassemble the elements. Now we're talking about the guitar parts. Try and disassemble them a little bit to where you're not getting focused on the prettiest parts, the most famous parts, right? And what I mean by that is if you're learning the basic structure of a song and then all of a sudden there's this cool little thing here that's on top of there, I'm not saying don't learn that. That's great. But again, let's say you had a deadline and you were trying to learn this song. You've never played it before, and you can already tell that it's going to give you a little bit of challenge by just generally listening to it. You don't want to get dissuaded or kind of off the beaten track because of some lick that's in there that now you're spending 3 hours trying to memorize. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, I'm saying you shouldn't do that right now, because the most important thing is you learn what we call the bed. You learn that basic function or basic structure that's going to get you through this song. Okay, we need that to be able to get together with a group of people and play. If we just show up and go, well, I didn't learn the song, but I did learn that really cool lick, your band's going to go, well, okay, but what good does that do us, right? So we have to focus on learning the functionality, the basic structure of that song all the way through, not the pretty stuff, I call it, on top. We'll worry about that later. Let's just get this thing learned. So now we're in there and we're actually now practicing. We're learning the parts, okay? Now, of course, the hard part is if you're learning a song and you come across a section of the song that is maybe technically out of your range today, not next week or next month or something, but today, that thing is causing you an issue. Well, again, it depends on if you have a time limit. If you have a time limit, you can sit and practice that over and over and over. But again, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of gloss over that at this point and try and learn this bed. Now, if there are 12 of those elements in this song, just hypothetically, that are going to give you big issues because technically they're above your level at this point, and I'm not being negative, I'm just being honest, then you have to look at it realistically and go, I'm not sure if this is going to happen because I need more time to develop all of this stuff. If there's only one or two, we can come back and we can work with those a little bit, right? So this is where that honesty of learning songs or writing songs or whatever, it all depends on how much time you have, right? How much determination you have, how much effort you're going to put forth to learn whatever it is you're trying to do. But again, let's say we've got a song that is within our wheelhouse. So we start learning this basic structure. Here's the big thing for me. This is where clearing comes in. Is now I've been learning all these parts and I separate in my head listening to the song and playing the song. Okay, I've been listening to this song longer, way longer than I've been trying to learn it because I would drive around, and this is something I always do, drive around my car. I live 4 hours from Minneapolis, and I have lots of friends in Minneapolis. I play in a band, 2 bands actually in Minneapolis. So it gives me 4 hours to drive to Minneapolis for band rehearsals, things like that, to listen to and craft, which is something I love to do. I just love this kind of stuff. How these songs and structures and things like that go. And even if I'm not going to Minneapolis, I'll just drive around and listen to songs. Once I get it in my head, then I start crafting this bed, if you will. Now, here's the trick. Once you've done that, you start listening to the song. You go back to listening to the song and you see if you can visualize and literally see yourself playing the parts of the song. So I'm not getting in a car accident here, but I'm driving. Maybe you're not driving. Maybe you're just sitting in your room or studio or whatever. But so I'm listening to the song and I can see myself playing. I can see all the parts. And I do this all the time. Now what clearing is if I get to a part of the song where I can't see it, it's like a dirty window. Like I got a window back here. It's a dirty window. I can't see clearly through it. Okay, that is going to be an issue for me when I get together with my band, or I start recording, or I jump on stage, right? I call them tension points. Those parts, if they're not cleared, they're going to give you problems. They're going to stress you out, right? They're the parts that are the most forgetful. They're the parts where you tense up and go, oh crap, here's that part again, right? Or it hits you when you're on stage and that's where the mistakes happen. We need to clear those parts, those red flag parts. So as I'm listening to the song, if I come across a part that isn't clear, I make a mental note or literally mark it down on a piece of paper or whatever, and then I go back and that's the part that I have to keep twisting and connecting to, if that makes sense. Once I've done that, I can clear it and it's ready to go. Okay? So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about, and again, I'm using the driving analogy, is that learning how to play a song or learning how to play 10 songs or learning how to play, if you've ever played in a cover band, from 9 to 1 or 9:30 to 1:30 or 10 to 2 or whatever you're playing, you know what it's like to play 40 or 50 tunes at least sometimes, right? How do you remember all these songs? Okay, well, I'm going to use the analogy of driving again. When I start playing a song, I don't see the entire song sitting out in front of me as a whole entity. I don't. Maybe you do, but I do not. Okay? What I do is I think of the song like driving. Okay? If I'm going from where I live to wherever my destination is, I'm going to get groceries. Okay? I'm 30 miles out of Fargo. So I'm driving into Fargo. I know where the stop signs are, right? I know where I have to turn left and where I have to turn right and all those sorts of things to get to my destination. I'm not thinking about the entire drive the minute I get in my car. I just start driving. Okay? So what I want you to think about here is as I'm doing this, okay, I know where those things are. I know where that stop sign is. Okay? So when you're learning a song, it's like driving through the song. You know when that stop sign's coming up. It doesn't surprise you. You've already cleared that. Okay? It's already coming up. So as you're playing that song and you're on stage and you're playing with your band, that part is coming up. You're aware of it just like you're driving. If you're not, again, there's a clearing issue that you need to work with. So that's what I want you to be thinking about a little bit when you learn songs. And the beauty of doing that is it's easier to retain that information as you keep learning other songs. Okay? Now, finally, because again, I don't want to take up all of your time, if you go back to the thing I said before about certain issues that you're having with the song, and I would encounter this with students all the time because with my students, not only did they learn how to play, but we would have actual performances with my students where they'd get together with a drummer and whatever, and they'd perform in a band and things like that, because I always thought that was a really important element of learning. It wasn't just playing, but actually interacting with other musicians. And let's say I have a student that's learning a particular song, and it could be just like you or even me. And they're learning this song, and we get to a certain part in that song. Maybe they're learning Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and they get to the solo, and they cannot play that solo. Okay, then I have to teach them that it's okay for them to revamp that element if there's a time limit. I'm not saying don't learn it note for note. And again, you can do whatever you want, but you can't make the impossible become possible just immediately because you want it to happen, right? It takes time and it takes effort and all these different kinds of things. Okay, so what I help them do is craft elements that can fit that space that maybe aren't exactly what the original artist did, but something that will still suffice to get them from this level to this level, which is practice to performance, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to practice until I can play it. Okay, well, all right, but then you'll never play, because none of us play anything absolutely perfect every single time, times 50 songs, right? We interject ourselves into songs many times for multiple reasons, because we choose to, because we have to, and there's all kinds of different things that we can do, okay? So what I want you to think about is the fact that when you are learning these songs and you do come across these elements, I'm not saying don't practice them or don't get better at them. Of course you want to do all those things, but you have to be realistic, because oftentimes if you come across a song and you find measure 7, right? And that measure 7 is just like, holy crap, that is so beyond anything that I can do. But the rest of the song was tolerable. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw that song away because of measure 7? Or is there a possibility that you could twist that a little bit to make it something that's still functional and then learn your song? Okay? So hopefully that helps you a little bit to understand how I think about songs in terms of sort of a bird's eye view, and then how gravity hits, and I start moving into that song and I learn more about it. And then I start dissecting that song and really trying to clear the entire tune. And then again, if I have issues with working on songs, think about how important it is, and this is really the bottom line, think about how important it is to spend time actually absorbing the song itself, not just playing. But spend time really listening and absorbing and becoming part of that song visually and aurally, right? Whatever that means to you. Before you start diving in and trying to play just the riffs and whatever the song might be. You don't have to do that for every song. I mean, there are songs that you'll just, have some fun and learn a little section to. It's okay. But if you were hired, for instance, by a band to learn 10 songs by next Friday's practice or whatever, and it happens to guys like me all the time, now you have a time limit. Right? I play in church. back in the day, it isn't as bad now, but back in the day, I mean, you'd learn whatever, 4 or 5 tunes, and, you only got a couple of days to learn them, which really isn't a big deal. But you still got to plan it out. I mean, you still got to figure out what you're going to do with this thing. I used to play in a metal band, which we played, Slayer and Anthrax and Metallica and Megadeth and Prong and, Strapping Young Lad and all that stuff. So the night would be 3 hours of absolute intense music. It's a lot of stuff to try and remember, let alone play. And you got to find an efficient way of being able to do that sort of thing. So hopefully that helps you a little bit to think about. If it does, again, maybe share this video with somebody or anything like that. But again, just stay positive, keep practicing, and I'll see you next Monday for sure. And we'll keep going, okay? Hey, Gary, nice to see you, bud. Wayne is here. Raphael is here. Poo Ninja is back, and he's digging prong. Right here is, he's got his prong going, which is good, okay? So, yeah, prong's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. So you're welcome, Gerald. You're welcome. You're welcome, White Rabbit. Thank you so much. Everybody take care, stay positive, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?